really rips y'all shit off the internet. Like, didn't really give y'all no credit.
Azealia Banks is stirring up drama again, and this time she's going straight for Beyonce's neck. In a wild series of accusations, Banks is claiming that before Queen Bee linked up with Jay-Z, she was already tangled up in Diddy's shady inner circle.
What it sounds like to me is that the government found a very, very, very successful way to control and manipulate hip-hop by allowing their top agents to run everything.
And according to Banks, that world wasn't just shady, it was straight up dark. She's saying Beyonce didn't just climb to the top because of talent. Nah, Banks claims her rise was wrapped in secrets, mind games, and a whole lot of silence, manipulation, covert, protection from powerful insiders.
Beyonce, girl, can I do a brown skin girl remix without you ripping it down off the internet?
Absolutely. Banks is making it clear she thinks Beyonce's journey to fame was anything but innocent. Is she about to pull back the curtain on Beyonce's carefully guarded image? It sure sounds like she's ready to go all in. And if even a piece of what she's saying is true, this could shake the whole industry. Banks, who's never been scared to go off, is now painting Beyonce not as the flawless queen we see on magazine covers, but as someone playing a long, twisted game. She claims that the polished persona we see today, all that girl power and artistic brilliance, is nothing but smoke and mirrors.
But it's like, Beyonce literally rips y'all shit off the internet. Like, didn't really give y'all no credit. And y'all are just be on here all day like,
Queen Bee, Banks suggests, was molded by elite hands, kept safe by industry giants, and protected by silence for years, long before Jay-Z was even in the picture. In her eyes, Beyonce's clean image is just a role, and the real story is way darker than we've been led to believe. Banks isn't backing down. She's saying Beyonce is a full-blown product of industry manipulation, backroom deals, silent handshakes, and raw ambition built her path to the throne. And along the way, morals may have been tossed out the window, the kind of ambition that doesn't blink twice at secrets buried deep.
Beyonce and just kind of how she's kind of gone out of her way her entire career to kind of just stifle other black women's things. Crazy in Love was supposed to be the next Amy Marie single. Just you're always trying to jump, even canceling Carrie Hilson. You're always actually stepping on black women's toes and shit like that.
And here's the kicker, the whispers, they've always been there. People have been asking for years. Did Beyonce really grind her way to the top? Or was she handpicked, protected, and pushed by powerful men who are now being outed for abuse of power in the industry? Before the sold-out stadiums, before the Grammys and the glitter, Banks says Beyonce's path was already twisted, tied to murky dealings with big names like Diddy. And Azealia Banks, who lives for calling out double standards, is now turning up the heat. She's claiming Beyonce made some serious personal sacrifices to win her place in the upper circles of the industry. According to her, Beyonce didn't just perform at elite events, she was moving within the core of it all. She even brings up those ultra-private, invite-only parties hosted by power players like Diddy, the kind of parties where Banks says real business happened in whispers and nods. No cameras, no rules, just silent agreements that allegedly decided who wins, who loses, and who stays untouchable.
Oh my God, you're a joke. And now in addition, you're trying to just with whatever, you're so sneaky. You're trying to erase my contributions to house music, dance music, electronic music, and all of that, and make it as if I'm God knows who.
According to Banks, Beyonce's presence at those high-level functions wasn't just for fun or fame, it was strategic. She hints that Beyonce used those spaces to work the room, strike deals, and build loyalty in ways that had little to do with music and everything to do with power. Banks and a few others whispering behind the scenes believe Beyonce didn't just stumble into fame. They say she played the game in secret rooms and exclusive circles, sealing deals that gave her protection, and a shortcut to superstardom, all behind closed doors, all off the record. But Banks says it didn't stop at Diddy's infamous parties. She's going even further, as claiming Beyonce was placed in a powerful position as an industry gatekeeper, not just someone meant to win, but someone assigned to control. According to Banks, Beyonce wasn't just built for success. She was trained to watch, filter, and even block other artists who might have shaken up the system. In Banks' view, Beyonce was groomed to protect the structure, not to fight it. She says artists who wouldn't play the game, who refused to fall in line with the unspoken rules, were quietly pushed out while Beyonce kept rising. No rebellion, just strategy. And Banks isn't shy about calling Beyonce's image fake. She says the whole empowering brand, the perfect, strong, flawless queen act, is all a polished illusion. She claims it's a front held together by hidden PR teams and secret handlers who've worked overtime to erase any trace of Beyonce's messier history. According to Banks, Beyonce's rise was scripted, not just with music, but with dark PR moves meant to clean up slip-ups, kill rumors, and flip bad headlines into fan praise. From the glammed up delicious days to the political edge of Lemonade, Banks insists it's all part of a carefully staged performance, and the real story's been buried deep. According to Banks, nothing Beyonce does is by accident. Every move is calculated, protected, and polished to maintain her throne. It's not about truth or raw emotion, it's all about control. The image we see, carefully staged, nothing left to chance, but here's where it gets way darker. There have been unconfirmed but long-standing rumors that Beyonce got pulled into a wild, shadowy lifestyle early on. We're talking secret parties, substance use, and strange alliances. The kind of scene that doesn't make it to the red carpet. Some even whisper about private recordings used as leverage to keep people in line. That's the kind of stuff that doesn't just stain reputations, it owns people. Now, this is where it ties right back to the Diddy storm. During a reported raid on his home, 3 mysterious tapes were allegedly found, and insiders are saying these tapes could blow the roof off Hollywood. The claims that those videos feature top-tier celebrities caught up in Diddy's notorious freak-off parties and doing a lot more than just dancing. Attorney Ariel Mitchell-Kidd, who's representing one of the many people coming forward against Diddy, revealed that those 3 tapes include names, and we're talking A-list, untouchable level names, the kind of names that make headlines just by showing up to an event. And now, whispers say one major male celeb is already sweating, terrified about what'll happen if the footage gets out. The source told media outlets that he's worried about the outcomes, and that alone says a lot. The fear is real. And if even a fraction of this is true, the fallout could be massive. The whispers around these alleged tapes are getting louder, and for some, it's bringing back deep pain. One insider reportedly said it feels like a betrayal all over again. He's haunted by what happened years ago, and now the fear of this footage leaking is tearing open old wounds. He feels like he was victimized years ago and is now being victimized yet again. And if those tapes ever hit the internet, that shame would follow him forever. No escaping it, no deleting it. Then came the press conference that sent shockwaves through the industry. Attorney Tony Busby didn't hold back. He said loud and clear, "The day will come when we will name names other than Sean Combs, and there's a lot of names." And when he repeated twice that they're going to make damn sure they're right before dropping the list, that made folks nervous, real nervous. He warned, "The names will shock you." And that's when eyebrows started flying up and fast. If these tapes do exist, they're not just scandalous, they're explosive. Azealia Banks has hinted before that there are people out there sitting on serious receipts, stuff that could blow Beyonce's carefully built image wide open. She's pointing fingers at the star's longtime ties to Diddy's inner circle, a circle now being torn apart by lawsuits, accusations, and years of dark secrets. Insiders are claiming Beyonce wasn't just watching from the sidelines. She wasn't just some innocent guest. Allegedly, she either played a role or benefited from that same secretive system that's now being exposed. And for Banks, that's the line she refuses to ignore. She's saying enough is enough. It's time to stop protecting the shiny surface and start asking who really had power in this game and what they did to keep it. The heat between Azealia Banks and Beyonce hasn't just popped up out of nowhere. This feud has been bubbling under the surface for years. But lately, it's gotten way more personal and way more explosive. Banks isn't just throwing shade, she's going for the throat. She straight up accuses Beyonce of being a cultural thief. According to Banks, Bey's been jacking styles, sounds, and ideas from underground Black creatives with zero credit. In her words, Beyonce is a poacher, someone who snatches the raw, unfiltered art of others, then wraps it in glam and sells it to the world like she made it from scratch. Banks isn't holding back. She's accused Beyonce of not uplifting the culture, but cannibalizing it instead. And that's a serious claim. She believes Beyonce takes from the very community she claims to represent without giving back the recognition or support it deserves. And it doesn't stop there. Banks even flipped on Lemonade, an album she once praised. Now she calls it a total scam, a feminist scam to be exact. She argues the whole project was built around a cheating man, and instead of empowering women, it actually showcased a toxic mindset, a slave mentality, dressed up in dramatic visuals and fake deep metaphors. According to Banks, Beyonce's been turning the pain of Black women into a performance. She claims that Bey profits off that struggle, turning real trauma into catchy visuals and big paychecks, without ever doing the real work to challenge the systems causing the pain. In Banks' eyes, it's not empowerment, it's exploitation, plain and simple. Azealia Banks is at it again, this time coming hard for Beyonce's new country-inspired era. After Beyonce dropped her new tracks, Texas Hold'em and 16 Carriages during that flashy Verizon ad at the Super Bowl, fans were buzzing. Yep, she's going full country now. The banjo, the southern vibes, the slow tempo, all signs pointed to a full-on country shift with Renaissance Act 2. But Banks, she's not buying it, not one bit. Right after the release, Banks took to Instagram stories and lit it up. She slammed the new sound, saying straight up, "Nothing country about it. You're setting yourself up to be ridiculed." And she didn't stop there. She threw shade at the whole aesthetic, saying critics aren't going to fall for a cheap blonde wig or get silenced by Jay-Z's influence. In her words, it's giving big-time musical grift. Banks made it clear, yes, she does believe Black women can absolutely do country music, but her issue? She says Beyonce just isn't pulling it off. She called it flat, inauthentic, and lacking the soul and theatrical flair that makes country music country. To Banks, this isn't innovation, it's imitation. She's accusing Beyonce of once again hopping genres for clout without respecting the real roots or bringing anything truly fresh to the table. And after the release of Renaissance, which had fans and critics divided, Banks is warning that this next move might backfire hard. At one point, rumors started flying that Beyonce might sample Azealia Banks' work, and that's when things exploded. Banks didn't just clap back, she threatened to sue not only Beyonce, but her entire label, her team, and even called out Blue Ivy by name. That moment was bold, raw, and showed Banks wasn't just talking music beef. She saw Beyonce as a real threat. Not just an artist she dislikes, but someone she calls dangerous, fake, and protected by a system that, in Banks' words, covers up everything for its favorites. Then came Break My Soul, Beyonce's big house-inspired anthem, and guess who wasn't impressed? Azealia Banks, who's long been known as a pioneer in the genre, torched the track. She called it bad house music for people who've never heard real house before. In Banks' eyes, Beyonce wasn't paying homage. She was just chasing trends she didn't understand, using the style to stay relevant instead of respecting the culture that built it. And this feud goes back even further. Back in 2018, Banks went off again, accusing Beyonce of stealing from talented women. She said Bey lacks originality and doesn't create, she copies. One of her biggest claims, that Beyonce ripped off choreography from Banks' own Count Contessa visuals. These accusations came right after Beyonce and Jay-Z wrapped their On the Run 2 tour, a high-budget spectacle full of bold visuals and stage performances. But Banks wasn't buying the hype. She saw it as just another example of Beyonce borrowing, lifting, and rebranding work that wasn't hers in the first place, and getting away with it because of who she is. Azealia Banks didn't just hint at Beyonce stealing, she straight up called her out by name. In a post, Banks revealed that her former dancer Ashanti ended up choreographing for Beyonce and allegedly stole the original moves created by Jip Jack for Banks' video count Contessa. And to make things even spicier, Banks didn't just complain. She said Beyonce should stop fronting and just hire her. Beyonce needs to get over herself and just hire me, she wrote. Banks isn't letting this go. She's doubled down, blasting Beyonce for consistently ripping off other talented women while pretending to wave the female empowerment flag. According to Banks, it's fake feminism. All talk, no real support. She believes Beyonce's all about the spotlight and will do whatever it takes to stay there, even if it means stepping over the very women she claims to uplift. Banks says if Beyonce really cared about sisterhood and creativity, she'd humble herself and give proper credit, not just recycle other people's work and slap her name on it. We don't need any more Beyonce thought moments, Banks snapped, throwing heavy shade at the superstar's highly polished, overly controlled image. She even joked, "I have no clue why she wants to be a regular bee," poking fun at Beyonce's obsession with creating buzz around her every move. But the real jaw-dropper came back in 2016 when Banks accused Beyonce of exploiting Black female artists. On Twitter, she wrote, "She's not an artist, she's a poacher." Banks claimed Beyonce takes food out of darker-skinned women's mouths while pretending to be inspired, painting herself as woke while benefiting from others' creativity. And the dagger? Banks suggested Beyonce should stay in Jay-Z's shadow and stop getting in the way of real creative women who are doing it without an army of handlers and a billion-dollar machine. When Beyonce dropped Cowboy Carter, the backlash from Azealia Banks came fast, and it hit hard. Banks ripped the album apart, calling it white woman cosplay and accusing Beyonce of ditching her Black identity whenever it's convenient for her career. In a ruthless Instagram rant, Banks claimed the whole project felt phony, like another strategy cooked up behind the scenes by someone else entirely. And guess who she blamed? Jay-Z. Banks went off, saying Beyonce's new direction wasn't even coming from her own creative heart. It was just another over-planned, over-polished move driven by Jay-Z's vision. "I'm so saddened by Jay-Z and his over-strategizing everything Bey does," she wrote. "It's clearly his influence, not the real Bianca Bardo." Banks then threw even more shade. "Someone tell Jay-Z his strategies are corny and Beyonce has better ideas." And she didn't stop there. She got personal, real personal, adding, "We'd like to see her outside without him and his pound puppy dreadlocks breathing all over her." Ouch! To drive the point home, Banks posted a throwback image of herself in full cowboy gear from one of her old music videos. The caption? Just 2 words, the OG. That post was a clear shot. Banks was saying Beyonce didn't just jump into country out of nowhere. She'd been watching Banks and copying her aesthetic. And while she's known for bold statements, this jab felt deeper. Banks made it crystal clear in her eyes Beyonce isn't breaking barriers. She's borrowing identities. And the harshest part? Banks seems to believe Beyonce keeps studying her moves, taking the look, the sound, and the vibe, then repackaging it with a bigger budget and calling it original. Azealia Banks isn't just dragging Beyonce, she's coming for the core of her empire. Banks has made it clear. In her eyes, Beyonce isn't running the show. Jay-Z is. She claims Beyonce has spent her whole career being his puppet, playing roles, following scripts, and chasing legacy like it's a trophy hunt. Banks paints her not as a powerhouse, but as a pawn, a product of instructions, not inspiration. And what really sets Banks off? Beyonce's silence. She mocks her for never defending herself, saying it's not grace, it's fear. She hides behind her fans, cryptic metaphors, and a glossy image, Banks says, calling it straight-up cowardice. In her view, Beyonce is scared to face real heat, so she lets the Bayhive do her fighting while she stays quiet behind designer shades and filtered visuals. Now, Banks says the creativity is gone, washed. She sees Beyonce as someone who's got all the money in the world but nothing real left to say. Every new project, Banks claims, feels like another soulless attempt to stay in the spotlight, not driven by passion, just powered by a brand too big to fail. But the biggest bomb Banks drops, she questions the entire foundation of Beyonce's fame. According to her, Beyonce didn't rise by outshining the competition. She was built, protected, and promoted by powerful men like Diddy. A machine moved her to the top, a machine full of dark secrets that the world wasn't ready to face. Now that machine is cracking, well, and Banks is on a mission. Whether she's revealing real dirt or just pushing buttons, she's out to shake the throne, and she's not stopping until the full story behind Beyonce's crown is out in the open. One thing's for sure, Azealia Banks isn't scared of Beyonce at all, and she's made it clear she's ready to bring the whole house down. Banks has been hammering on this idea that Beyonce doesn't just dominate, she uses lesser-known artists, pulls from their work, then leaves them in the dust. And guess what? She's not the only one who thinks so. Keyshia Cole also had something to say, and she didn't sugarcoat anything. She added fuel to the fire when she hopped on Twitter and let her thoughts fly about Beyonce's track Bow Down. Now, to some fans, that song was a bold power move, Beyonce stepping into her boss era. But Keyshia, she wasn't buying the hype. She clapped back, tweeting, "Can't stand when people are self-righteous when it's convenient, but can still talk mess when convenient too. F-O-H, oof." And she wasn't done. In a tweet that's since been deleted, Keyshia added, "First, women need to stick together. Now B's better bow some. But it's all G. Chicks stay shooting the C. But when I speak my mind, it's a prop. She didn't bite her tongue. Not for Beyonce, not for the fans, nobody." Keyshia made it clear. The double standards in the industry run deep. According to her, Beyonce gets away with talking tough and throwing shade, but when another woman claps back, suddenly it's a problem. And Banks has been echoing that exact same energy, that behind Beyonce's girl power image is someone who plays the game for herself and silences anyone who dares call her out. When Keyshia Cole spoke out about Beyonce, she didn't hold back and Twitter lit up. She shared her honest thoughts on Beyonce's track Bow Down, I've Been On, and let's just say she wasn't feeling the message at all. Keyshia took aim at the lyrics, calling out the vibe of the song for pushing the wrong energy. She made it loud and clear. Women should be lifting each other up, not tearing each other down for dominance. In her tweets, she said things like, women need to stick together, and shaded folks who act sweet but still talk trash when it suits them. It was obvious. Keyshia wasn't just reacting to a song, she was speaking on something deeper. And then, social media exploded. The Bayhive pulled up quick, and they didn't come to play. What started as one artist giving her opinion turned into an all-out war online. The Hive rushed in, dragging Keyshia left and right, defending their queen with full force. But it wasn't all backlash. Plenty of people praised Keyshia for standing her ground and not folding under pressure. They said she was standing up for real female unity, calling out the fake feminism that gets polished for the cameras but doesn't show up behind the scenes. As usual with anything Beyonce related, the drama got huge, fast. Hashtags started trending, fan bases clashed, and timelines were flooded with hot takes. It might have looked like just another stan war, but to many, this was more than just beef. It was a glimpse into a bigger issue that's been bubbling under the surface for years. What started as just a few tweets quickly blew up into a full-blown war online. Fans from both camps, Keyshia's and Beyonce's, were going at it heavy. But whether you agreed with Keyshia or not, one thing was clear. She had touched a nerve. This was bigger than just one song. She opened up a conversation about power, silence, and how the industry really works behind the scenes. According to insiders, Keyshia had already been uneasy about the so-called Beyonce machine long before she ever hit send on that tweet. She wasn't one to play the industry game. She didn't hold her tongue to save face, and apparently she paid the price for it. Right after her tweets, things changed. Her label stopped backing her like before. Major platforms weren't pushing her music. Collabs, they started drying up. Just like that Keyshia Cole, the woman with platinum albums, chart-topping hits, and a successful TV show, started fading from the spotlight. Quietly, almost like she got frozen out. Some started calling it the Beyonce effect. And let's be honest, this conversation isn't new. For years, Beyonce has been treated as untouchable, the ultimate image of power, fame, and grace. On the surface, she's calm, unbothered, always polished. She avoids drama like it's beneath her. But behind the scenes, there have been quiet whispers for years, whispers about what really happens when another woman challenges her, questions her image, or even slightly threatens her place at the top. Stories that keep popping up and never fully disappear. Let's talk about Keri Hilson, once one of the brightest rising stars in the game. She had it all: vocals, choreography, songwriting credits for top-tier names. She was on a serious come-up. But things took a wild turn after she dropped some not-so-subtle shade in her track, Turning Me On. She didn't name names, but the lyrics, yeah, everybody knew who she was talking about: Beyonce. She called out fake personas and made-up divas, and that alone sent shockwaves through the industry. And then, boom, silence. Right after that diss, Keri Hilson's career seemed to hit a wall. No more charting singles, big interviews, gone. Her music releases slowed, and eventually, she just disappeared from the spotlight. It felt sudden, too sudden. Over the years, she's hinted at being blacklisted, and fans have long speculated it's all because she dared to throw shade at Queen Bey. But it doesn't stop with Keri. Enter Tinashe. She came in hot with her breakout hit 2 On, and people were calling her the next big R&B pop queen. She had the voice, the look, the moves, everything was lined up. But her momentum fizzled fast and she started speaking out about it. Tinashe later revealed she felt boxed in, micromanaged, controlled, and shut out of major decisions in her own career. She didn't name anyone directly, but she made it clear there were powerful forces behind the scenes working against her. She talked about feeling suffocated by people at the top who didn't want her to succeed on her own terms. Just like Keri, another young Black woman who started shining too bright and suddenly found herself in the dark. And even though Tinashe never name-dropped anyone, fans started connecting the dots. The timing was just too suspicious. Her rise slowed down right as she began speaking her truth and calling out how she was being boxed in. It didn't feel like coincidence. It felt like quiet sabotage. Then there's Amerie. Remember that fire track, One Thing? It dropped in 2005 and was everywhere. The sound, the style, the visuals, Amerie came out bold, fresh, and way ahead of her time. For a moment, it looked like she was about to take over. She had a lane carved out and fans ready to ride with her. But then, silence. Almost as fast as she blew up, she vanished. Radio stopped spinning her songs, her name started fading, and industry momentum flatlined. And around that same time, another female artist with a very similar vibe, but with way more label support, started dominating the scene. For years, fans have been asking the same question. Did Amerie just lose steam, or was she pushed out? A lot of people believe she wasn't just forgotten, she was replaced. And we can't leave out Lauryn Hill, the definition of legendary. A one-of-a-kind voice, a poet with bars, and a stage presence that stopped time. She had everything, but instead of being celebrated long-term, the industry flipped the script. They stopped calling her brilliant and started calling her difficult. What do all these stories have in common? Women, especially Black women, who lit up the industry, brought something authentic, something real, and then suddenly it was like the system didn't have space for them anymore. Or worse, they were treated like a threat that needed to be shut down. Yeah, Lauryn Hill had personal struggles, no doubt, but she also challenged the system in a way most artists never dared. She spoke out against the very machine that builds stars up, worships them, then chews them up and spits them out. After her iconic album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, which changed the game and made her a cultural force, she basically vanished from the mainstream. Not because the talent faded, but because she refused to play along. She went from rising legend to cautionary tale, from being praised to being pushed aside. She wasn't celebrated, she was forgotten. What do these women have in common? That question hits harder now than ever. Lauryn, Amerie, Keri, Tinashe, Keisha, all talented, all outspoken, all labeled a threat. And every single one of them spoke up, whether it was about shady contracts, stolen credit, fake empowerment, or the dark side of fame, they didn't stay quiet. And once they did that, the industry started turning its back on them. And now with the Diddy fallout cracking open a bigger conversation, people are looking back at these stories differently. They're not just random career flops, they're part of a pattern where powerful women, especially Black women, get strategically sidelined the moment they stop following the rules or rub the wrong industry giant the wrong way. And through all of it, Beyonce's name keeps coming up. Whether she's directly involved or just standing at the top of a system built on silence and strategy, she's no longer outside the conversation. Beyonce's name keeps surfacing, and not in loud accusations, but in whispers, quiet enough to be dismissed, yet steady enough to make people start asking questions. At some point, you have to wonder, is Beyonce really just the flawless icon, the face of success, power, and Black excellence? Or is she also something else entirely? Could she be the quiet gatekeeper of a massive empire, one that rewards loyalty, protects silence, and slowly pushes out anyone who steps out of line? This is where it starts to get dark. What's happening right now with Sean Diddy Combs isn't just some celebrity headline. It feels like the industry's dirty laundry is finally being dragged into the light. In less than a year, Diddy's gone from being a respected mogul to the center of chilling allegations. We're talking manipulation, coercion, career sabotage, and silencing victims with non-disclosure agreements. But this story, it's bigger than just Diddy. It's about the whole system that let it happen, a network of power that protected him for decades and might have done the same for others. That's why people are paying attention now. Because if his empire, once seen as untouchable, can fall like this, so you have to ask, who else has been protected? Who else is hiding behind fame, branding, and billion-dollar PR teams? If Diddy's being exposed, how many more industry giants are standing on shaky ground? And how long until their curtains get pulled back too? And now the question that's got people looking real close, who else built their legacy by shutting others down? Because let's be honest, Diddy didn't run that whole game solo. He was part of a tight-knit protected circle, a crew of powerful Black artists and execs who didn't just influence music, they controlled it. They had the power to decide who got the spotlight, who got pushed to the side, and who never even got a chance. And sitting right there in that elite circle, Beyonce, Jay-Z, L.A. Reid, the so-called Black elite of the entertainment world. For years, they were praised as the blueprint, the top-tier vision of Black excellence. Grammy winners, billion-dollar bosses, unstoppable icons, the ones everyone was told to look up to. But now, that polished image is starting to crack, and behind the scenes, a much darker story is starting to surface. It's no coincidence that Beyonce and Jay-Z's empire skyrocketed during the exact era Diddy dominated. They moved in the same powerful rooms, Roc Nation brunches, exclusive invites, elite deals, the kind of spaces where unspoken rules were made, alliances were formed, and careers were either boosted or buried. They weren't just artists, they were gatekeepers with the keys to success, access, and influence. And now, as Diddy's world starts to fall apart, people are asking, what did the rest of that circle really know? Who else helped build the system that's now being exposed? And how many careers were sacrificed to keep that golden image intact? These weren't just casual business connections. This was a machine, a tightly locked system built on loyalty, silence, and calculated power plays. If you stayed in line, you got protected, elevated, praised. But if you didn't, you disappeared fast. And this is where Beyonce's name keeps creeping back in and making folks real uncomfortable. Let's be clear, Beyonce hasn't been named in any lawsuits or court cases, at least not yet, but more and more people are starting to say the same thing. She didn't just rise to the top on raw talent and hustle alone. There was a system behind her, a behind-the-scenes force making sure the path was cleared and no one else could shine too bright beside her. People are saying other women got pushed out quietly. Deals were blocked before ink hit the paper. Careers were frozen before they even got started. And while it may not have been Beyonce pulling the strings directly, she was right there, in the room, in the network, surrounded by the same powerful names now being exposed. And as the Diddy scandal unravels, it's becoming clear this isn't just about him, it's about an entire era. A time when success wasn't just earned, it was engineered. And Beyonce, she was definitely a major part of that era. She moved in the same elite spaces, shared the same stages, operated under the same unspoken rules that protected the few and shut out the rest. The question now is, how deep does it all go? And who else was part of making sure only a chosen few stayed on top?